I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching. This video is going to be a short excerpt from a longer conversation I had with Rob over at Dice Show Tactical. In that conversation, we talked about all sorts of things, ranging from just general training stuff to CQB to rifles and all sorts of other little topics. And this video is a short conversation from that longer conversation. If you enjoy my content, definitely be sure to check out Rob over at Dice Show Tactical. He's also the same guy who ran the Gunfather Milsim channel, if you're familiar with that. He's a great guy, longtime SWAT guy, so he has a lot of knowledge and information to share. So if you enjoy my content, I'm sure you would enjoy his content as well, so definitely be sure to check out his channel, Dice Show Tactical. With that being said, I hope you enjoy this video.
So let's go back, actually, because you actually made a great segue to the first thing we want to actually talk about tonight, which is actually clearance speeds. And obviously you have people who are absolutes on both sides of the spectrum. You have people who are absolute dynamic all the way, that's just it, get in the room, clear it, blah, blah, blah. Then you have the people on the other side of the spectrum who are slice-based entries or slice-based clearances, that's it, go slow all the time, never faster, and that's it. And, you know, in my opinion, I'm sure you'd agree with this, both of those are equally wrong. There are times, obviously the mission set and the context and all that and kind of the global situation, if you will dictate relatively the general, let's say, average of the actual clearance. But then clearance speed is also very much dictated by the local situation as well. So there are times where, yeah, you're going to go super slow. You're going to be super cautious because speed is not really terribly high priority at that point. But then there are going to be times where you need to go faster, and there are going to be certain contexts where you need to go faster. Like, for example, like an active shooter. If there's an active shooter, you're not going to be taking all the time in the world to slice out every single doorway super. So you can't do that. People are dying. There's children dying. You got to go. That's going to be, that's going to be a very fast rate, direct to threat type of clearance. You're going. You hear gunshots, you're going.
Right, but active shooter is essentially a hostage rescue.
Essentially, yes, it is.
A rolling hostage rescue. Everybody kind of likes to say they do hybrid. No one wants to say, well, I only do dynamic or I only do, I guess the term that's been settled on is deliberate.
Deliberate.
So
I personally hate that term, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, is it limited pen? Is it threshold assessment? Because that means a lot of things.
Yeah.
So it seems like the two terms that have settled out among the community, if you will, is deliberate versus dynamic. So my big thing is everybody agrees that it's a hybrid. Fine. That's cool. I agree with that. My question is, what are your percentages and what is the motivating factor that causes you to switch from one to the other? Okay. So for me, my percentages are 98% deliberate with varying speeds. Okay. So if I have first, search warrant speed where I'm just doing a standard search warrant versus a slow clear of a place where there may or may not be an armed party in there. And to be brutally honest, we would just use a drone anymore. Yeah. We would use a drone. But
you have that ability.
Let's pretend the drones don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And, am I pieing that thing in 5 steps, that vertical pivot point, or am I pieing it in 10 or 15 or whatever that really, because I want to see that guy's leg before I see his body with the muzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a variation of speed. For me, if I'm doing something dynamic, and basically what we're talking about is speed versus security.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that we're playing with here. If I'm doing something dynamic, there's got to be somebody whose safety is more important than my own.
Yeah.
We're talking about an innocent, a hostage, also an innocent, something like that. And that's extremely rare on the SWAT side of the party. That's extremely rare that we have that. I've only done like 4 hostage rescue entries. Luckily, they were all successful, but I mean, the grand scheme of my career, it's nothing.
Yeah. Not compared to like your just general warrants.
Right. General warrants or any of the other operations we do. Site security, dignitary protection, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
the issue that I run into is some people are like, well, we're hybrid. We do dynamic unless we reach resistance. And then we'll switch to deliberate or limited pen. And I'm like, okay, but by the time you've met the resistance, it's too late to switch.
Yeah.
Like that's not, when you enter the room is not the time you want to realize, oh shit, we should have done this deliberate. Because now we're in the room and we're taking rounds or whatever. Now there's a prepared defender. Yeah. I did a whole class on prepared defenders on Wednesday. So yesterday. And it was heavy sims, prepared defender. I told the guys, hey, it's prepared defender day, hostage rescue, active killer, prepared defender. So they knew they were going to get, engaged. And it's amazing how much slower they went. And they went slower still after the first scenario when they got engaged. And they're like, oh, well, we're getting all torn up. We're taking hits in the arms and stuff. And some of them were getting a little frustrated. I'm like, yeah, that's prepared defender.
Yeah.
You're probably going to take casualties. You're probably going to take hits. Where are you taking them then? And then can you solve the problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the worst thing we face. And in my opinion, that's the standard by which any CQB method should be measured, is prepared defender.
Yeah.
Because that's the worst case.
Of course. I mean, everything works with surprise.
Like, or non-compliance.
Or
compliance.
Or that too. If a dude's sleeping in his bed and you enter his room, everything works. The dude's sleeping what you want.
The guy who's not armed, and regardless of the CQB method I'm using, he's going to surrender.
Yeah.
I could do it with a wiffle ball bat, and he would surrender. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So everything's fine until you reach that prepared defender, and that's where does your method really work? So that's me. I'm not against dynamic, but there's got to be something that's more important. Something's life is going to be more important than my life for me to switch.
Yeah, I like to break it up, especially in terms of like a local context. Like something that happens like locally within the structure, where like this doorway type of thing. First gear, slow, methodical, cautious. It's the slowest speed at which we can slice, right? You're just slicing out super slow because, again, the local context, you don't need to be fast, right? It's first gear. I call it first gear. Then you have second gear, which is fast, which is aggressive and fast-paced. It's still going to more than likely be a slice-based entry, but it's going to be a more aggressive slice. So, you might make entry into that room in 3 or 4 steps. As opposed to
that would be our warrant speed is what we would call that.
It's a faster paced slice. It's a more aggressive slice. And then you have third gear, which is I call high risk clearances. There's going to be things like your hybrid step centers, purely dynamic entries, the things where speed is of top priority, whether that's the global situation, mission set, context, whatever, or a local situation that caused that, like whatever, you're in a very dangerous hallway and you're working a room and someone takes a shot at you down deep in the hallway. Okay, now at this point, the hallway and us staying in this hallway is more dangerous than us entering that room. We need to go and get in that room.
Where we're at is not safe. We got to go.
Yeah. Right. Being here is more dangerous than working this fast. So that is our priority. So and things are very fluid. Right, you're never going to, or very rarely are you ever going to work at the same speed throughout the entire clearance. It's going to vary, sometimes greatly. Like, for example, if you're moving down a hallway and you just go, let's say an open door left, and by this point you're still working things at, let's just say, first gear, and you're working down this hallway, and a dude peeks his head out that threshold, sees you, goes, oh, and dips back in. Okay, pressure, momentum. We need to get there faster. So at that point, you're probably shifting to second gear because now the opposite's working. He wasn't a prepared defender, but now he might try to become a prepared defender.
Right.
So it's like, I don't want him taking this super slow as he's digging, getting a gun, and putting himself in a better position. Right. Get there, get a gun on him before he becomes a prepared defender. So it's stuff like that where understanding the situation, the context. Right.
Depending on like that situation you said, depending on where it was in the structure and what we thought that person might have, we might switch to a call out.
That's true too. Yes.
Yeah.
Send in a drone or a dog or something like that.
Or just get 2 pieces of cover back and strengthen our position and our lane, then call the guy out. Hey, I don't know what your plan is here, Haas, but we're not leaving.
Yeah.
So
This is siege warfare at this point.
Well, and I think that's, what are your bad guys' options? So on the SWAT side, I was talking to somebody that's like, well, I told him I've only been, in my career, I've only shot one guy. I've been in like 5 shootings where I was a witness, but that's just because I didn't have a position to shoot. Whatever, it's extremely rare. Actual shootings. I've never shot anybody on a SWAT operation. Never have. And that's north of 800 operations.
Yep.
And then people go, well, how often are they armed? I said about half the time. And they found that shocking. Like, well, what? If they're armed half the time, why aren't you getting more shootings? It says, well, because generally speaking, criminals don't carry their guns for cops. They don't carry their guns to fight cops. They carry their guns to fight other gang members, other dope dealers who try to steal their dope, whatever.
Yep.
If a dope dealer is a rival dope guy is breaking into your house to steal your dope, your options are fight, or die. That's about it.
Yeah.
But when the SWAT team's coming in, your options are, well, I can fight and I will die because there's a whole team of armored guerrillas coming in with machine guns, or I can surrender, in which case I will not be killed, and I'm going to go fight it out in court and live to fight another day.
Yeah.
And because that is an option, that is the option they take. Because unless you're really, really crazy, you realize I'm screwed. I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many guys I arrest where the gun is right next to them on the bedstand.
Yep.
And they probably had it. I've had interviews with them after the fact that said, yeah, I had it in my hand, and then I heard someone say police search warrant, and I put it down because I realized you were the cops.
Yeah.
So you take that and compare it to maybe more of a military context where you're dealing with somebody who is, they think, well, I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well go out fighting for what I believe in.
Yeah.
It's very different. But I've also heard that that's one of the advantages of the U.S. military, that they know, generally speaking, if I surrender, I want to be treated well. I'm not going to be killed. There's an avenue for me to walk out of this with my life.
Yeah.
If I just surrender.
Yeah.
So I think that's something people don't really understand, that the vast majority of these incidents don't get resolved without violence.
Yeah. Most of the time, whether it's criminals or military context, the adversary that you're fighting, most of these people want to live. They're not looking to shoot it out, take as many of you with them as possible, and die. That's generally not their MO. They want to live. Even the more radical ones that you see in Afghanistan and all that, and with obviously more military context, they want to live. They're not just there to die. And that has pretty large implications on what they do, and you see that a lot with like force on force stuff as well, where you'll see a lot of things that people will very rarely actually do. Like hiding behind doors is a big one. Oh, well, I'm going to hide behind this door and smoke someone who walks through the door. Again, that happens on force because there's no risk of you actually dying. But that position, he might get a hit on somebody, but he's basically backing himself into a corner. There's no route of egress for him. There's no survival. He is going to die. So it's stuff like that happens in like a force on force context that a lot of times doesn't actually match reality on what actually happens.
Right. You can't replicate that fear of death and what that's going to cause people to do. Yeah, it's challenging when you're making scenarios, coming with reasonable scenarios and whatever. I can't replicate fear of death. At the end of the day, it's ammunition.
Yeah.